Hi everyone, welcome back to Life After Neverland. It's been a week, 2 weeks? Maybe a week. It feels like forever since I've talked to you guys about The Chosen, and I know we're a little bit late here. We had a tragedy in our family. I don't know if you've been following my vlogs, you'll know that I was sick for about 2 weeks. My father-in-law, he ended up getting sick and he passed away. And so we've been dealing with that tragedy. I don't want anybody to feel bad. I don't want you to be sad. But I just needed some time. He was my father-in-law, but he was very much like a father to me. So I needed to have my soul mended just a little bit, enough for me to even speak to you guys. So I hope you'll be able to watch this. I know there's tons of people who've been covering The Chosen lately, and well, it's already been a week, so hopefully I'm not irrelevant at this point in time. Thank you so much, everyone who's been following my vlog and giving me beautiful support. It means so much to me, especially because I don't come from, a church background, and I also am not a pastor at all. So I just really love Jesus and I love The Chosen, and I really love talking about it. So with that being said, you guys, I do want to call out a few followers. These are the most recent ones that have left some beautiful comments recently, and I just want to say thank you to all of you who've been watching my vlogs, and the ones as of current, it was Kathy Roos. Hopefully I'm saying everyone's name properly. Of course I'm going to torture the last names, maybe even a first. Ian Peoples, Stephen Sinclair, or is that Stefan? Hopefully I'm saying it right. And Kathy Prusak. Again, please forgive me if I tortured your last name, but I did want to give you a great big thank you, along with everyone else, for watching my vlog and being so supportive and leaving some really amazing, thought-provoking comments. Thank you. I try to keep up with you. You guys are amazing. You have so much knowledge, so bring the knowledge here. I'm all about it. That's one of the reasons why I love this show, learning more about Jesus and just really feeling that heartfelt connection, and that's what you get when you're watching The Chosen. If you're just now tuning in and you're like, what is The Chosen? Make sure that you guys hop on over to the Google app, type in The Chosen. It's a free app, and you can watch season 1 and 2 for free. And if you're feeling like you need some hope, you need to amp up your faith, or maybe you just want to get to know Jesus a little bit more, this is a show that you're going to want to watch. We're on the very last episode right now of season 2, and it was touching, just like I expected it to be. So we're going to start from the very beginning. It's really interesting how Dallas tells the story. Dallas Jenkins, those of you that don't know, is the director of The Chosen, and he's very, very good at storytelling. He's amazing at it. And how he ties things together, and he makes it a big surprise sometimes. And he's also very heartfelt and really knows how to pull at your heartstrings and really connect you to Jesus. Legit. My father-in-law was a pastor, and I literally had to say to him, have you been watching The Chosen? No. Have you been watching The Chosen? He finally started watching it, and the sad part is I don't even know if he was able to finish it. Even though he's a pastor, he knows the story, but he was really falling in love with it. Yeah, so we're gonna move on. Anyway, so you have this man in the very beginning, and he's selling his land. I don't think begrudgingly is the word that I'm looking for. They're basically pushing it upon him, these two men. And for me, I guess I missed their name. Maybe they didn't give their name. I think they did that on purpose, and we'll get back to that at the end. But the two men, after they kind of, in my opinion, swindled him out of his land, they were having a discussion about it. And the two of them had two different perspectives. So one of them is kind of like, well, we need to make money. It was basically like a superficial financial perspective on things. It's a means to an end. It's a way to survive. And he kind of made out in the end anyways, even though emotionally, it was very difficult for him. It wasn't a superficial thing for him. It was something that was emotional. It had ties, it had feelings, it had memories, and those sorts of things. The other young man was talking about ethics and compassion. Did you see him crying? After we ended up getting what we wanted, he left hurt. And I don't feel good about that. I feel like I did something wrong. And it was interesting because that's kind of how I live my life. I really do lead with the emotion aspect of things. It's very hard for me to lead on the superficial perspective. But guess what? Neither one, and you'll find out later when you watch the episode, neither one of them were bad men. especially the one that even had the financial outlook from the beginning. And we'll get back to that later. At first, I thought that these two men, well, at least the one that was on the financial hunt, okay, I felt like, you know, he's every other typical person that I've met, you know. Even though you're crying, even though this land is sentimental to you, you are a means to an end for me. And that's all I care about. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But as you watch the episode, you'll see he wasn't all bad, after all. You see the disciples bickering and arguing because they're getting ready for this grand sermon that Jesus is going to be giving. I mean, there's been preparation for this entire season. And so they're getting ready for it, and it's a lot of pressure. They don't want to let Jesus down, and they want to make sure that they do it right. And you even see Mary talking to Rima, and she's teaching her how to read and that sort of thing. And Mary's kind of going to a different place. What I got from it, I don't know if any of you got something else from it, but what I got from that is just that Mary's really still struggling with some of her decisions. And I'm pretty sure that she's beating herself up, especially, I would imagine, for me, I would want to make Jesus proud of me. And I fell back into my wicked ways, so to speak. Something that's not good for Mary. Let's just make it simple like that. It's not good for Mary's life. It's not going to help her. It's only going to hinder her. And I think she just felt really beside herself for giving in to her weak moment. Does that make sense? Okay, so you see them kind of going through all of that. But then you see Jesus with Matthew, and they're working on the Bible. Now, he chose to go off with Matthew, which I think is very fascinating, that out of everyone, he chose Matthew. I think Matthew has a huge heart, and I do think he thinks on a deeper level. It just doesn't make sense to everybody else, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say here. And I think it's great that he chose Matthew to take his words and sort of banter with each other about what should be said in the Bible. And I think it's really cute because Matthew was like, ultimately saying, you know, this is kind of ominous. This is kind of morbid. Like, the things that you're saying are sad. They're devastating. Like, if you don't do this, this will happen to you. And if you don't do that, this will happen to you. So he was kind of trying to help Jesus figure out a different way of wording things. And it's very cute, this scene. But then, going back to what I was saying about the disciples and Mary, Jesus had a lot of thought processes over the night. You could tell over the night he was thinking about some of the things that Matthew said. And he revisited some of his wording, and it is profound and absolutely beautiful. And as he was saying the new version of what he wanted to say to Matthew, he was overlooking the camp where the disciples were, and he was thinking fondly of each one and had something very specific in his heart where I feel like they had touched his heart in some way. And he was using his ideas off of his relationship with them. It's beautiful. So they can't let him down. They can't let him down because Jesus sees them for who they are deep down in their soul. And I love that because, I mean, this is what I got from it. Like I said, you might have gotten something else, and I'd love for you to share it with me. I just feel like a lot of the times we go through our life and we're thinking, you know, Jesus is going to be unhappy with me. He's going to be disappointed in me, and beat ourselves up. At least I do. I do that. I was doing that actually yesterday. And to watch the episode, I watched it this morning. It's so refreshing to know that these are things that I'm feeling. Like, he loves me anyway, and he's going to help guide me through some of my struggles, some of my fumbles, some of my trips, and some of my falls, okay? And I feel like that's kind of what's happening there with the disciples. So let's talk about what Jesus actually said, because I know you guys can relate to this, and I know it's going to touch your heart if you didn't see the episode already, or maybe you're just watching me and you've never watched The Chosen. So I'm going to read to you what he said. So as he was explaining it to Matthew, he was saying to Matthew that this is a map, directions of how we can find him. And he said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others, my writing is a little strange on this one, but it said, this is what I think it said. Okay, blessed are you when others revile you. I think he said revile. I can't read my own writing. And persecute you. And he was looking at Matthew when he said that. And he said, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. If someone wants to find me, those are the groups they should look for. Now, one of the things that I wanted to say to you guys is yesterday, I guess I've just kind of been beating myself up in my life lately. And yesterday it was just kind of, I listened to other people's journeys and some of the blessings that have happened in their life. And a lot of the times I do actually feel, and I don't want to be ungrateful. I'm definitely not ungrateful. I want to make that very, very clear. But sometimes I feel like my path is very challenging. I do kind of feel like if I walked out of the house, a snowball is slapped in my face. Quite often, I feel like somebody's just standing out there ready to just throw one smack dab right in my face. It happens a lot, and I'm always trying to pick up the pieces. You know that song, I get knocked down, but I get up again. That is my theme song. And so I was talking to my husband about it, and I was just saying, what does God want for me? Where do I belong in this world? And what is my purpose? And those sorts of things. And I was just really down on myself. And then here I watch The Chosen, and that's what's so beautiful about it. I look at this, I listen to this, and I see the disciples, and I think, you know what? I'm just going to keep pressing on. I'm going to keep being me, and I'm going to keep being the loving, kind, caring person that I am. I'm going to trust and have faith in God, and I know that He has my back. And that's what's so beautiful. Like, sometimes you'll get these messages from The Chosen just by watching it. You'll hear something that, they have in their script, and it really touches your soul on a very deep level. There are so many parts in this episode that were really touching. They had a political one that I thought was fascinating, and I wanted to talk to you guys about that really quick. So one of the things that I find fascinating is how the things that are happening in our world right now can somewhat relate to what happened during the biblical times when Jesus was walking the earth. And the Romans are talking to Shmuel and the other dude, I forgot his name. Anyway, and they were basically just, saying that Jesus is accused of using the title of Son of Man. He claims authority to forgive sins. He violated the Shabbat several times, and he was encouraging his followers to do so as well. This was gross. He said he eats with tax collectors and sinners. I love that. I love that because his purpose is to help them. They're broken. They're lost. But how narrow-minded are they? Okay? So annoying. They also were talking about one of my favorite characters, Nicodemus, and Shimon. They were basically talking about how Nicodemus and Shimon were dismissing these accusations against Jesus. And they felt like the word that they used was gullible masses. The gullible masses. So hide what Nicodemus said. Don't let them know about Shimon until later. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cast Jesus in this horrible light, and we're not going to let them know what Nicodemus said or what Shimon says. They're only going to hear our perspective on this, our narrative, and ultimately throw the two of them under the bus because their narrative is wise. I do believe that Nicodemus is very, very wise. And if I had lived during that time, I definitely would have listened to Nicodemus, 100%. And they're going to hide what he has to say and no one gets to hear it. And those are the kinds of things that I feel like with today's day and age, there's a lot of misinformation going out and we don't know what's going on. It's getting harder nowadays. You really have to be careful about what you're listening to and what you're hearing and how does it connect with God? Does it connect with God? What is happening? Those sorts of things. And that's happening here in this series right now. But in the end, Jesus was getting ready for his sermon, the one that he's been preparing for. And one of my actual favorite moments, other than the moment with Matthew, when Jesus and Matthew were looking out at the camp and they were having that deep discussion that we just talked about, I really loved Mary and Jesus she was encouraging him for the sermon and getting him prepared. And it was just really special. They had a really special moment. And I felt like Jesus was vulnerable. I felt like we saw him being a little insecure. How we would feel if we were getting ready to go in front of a crowd. We don't know how many people are going to be there. We don't want to make any mistakes. We're a little bit nervous and unsure of ourselves. And he was too. And for me personally, I love that. He's human. He is human. And it's beautiful. And he's relatable. And I've said that before, and well, that's what I love about The Chosen, again, making Jesus relatable, human, and having some of the same human emotions that we have, okay? But he walked out there, and there was a sea of people. And we also got to see some characters that we haven't seen for a while, so that was also beautiful too. So in order for Jesus to get this sermon put together, he had to have a land that he could actually do the sermon on. And what was kind of neat is in the very beginning of the episode, we have those two men that I told you about, and the disciples were trying desperately to find somewhere for Jesus to hold his sermon. And these two men overheard what was being discussed, and this is their specialty. So they swayed the man that the disciples were trying to convince to hold the sermon in his lot or pastor. And they convinced him to do so. And they showed up. And lo and behold, the one that had the ethical, moral code and the deep compassion for the man that was crying that they took his property from in the very beginning of the episode was actually Judas. So we just met Judas for the very first time. That was cool. And that's what I'm talking about with Dallas Jenkins. He has a great way of storytelling and a great way of adding some sweet surprises. Again, what I was talking about, not knowing what, God has in store for me in my life, it made me think watching this episode, God has his timing and his timing is divine. That example is definitely relevant with The Chosen. This series is divine and it couldn't be here at a more perfect time. So I hope that you guys continue to watch The Chosen. And if you haven't watched The Chosen, I hope you will hop on to the Google Store app and get started. You won't regret it. But before we go, one of the things that Jesus was saying to Matthew, and I just wanted to share this with you and leave you with these words, okay? Jesus's words from The Chosen. When he's writing the Bible and all that stuff with Matthew, Jesus was saying that he's starting a revolution. He doesn't want to revolt, but he is starting a revolution. And I like that because that ties into him kind of kicking up some dust and all that good stuff. If you want to call it that. It is and it isn't. For him, we don't want to lose Jesus, but we have to. But he was saying that he wants his followers to be a part. Now, when I talk about what's going on in the world right now, this is where I feel like it ties in. Jesus wants his followers to be a part of renewing the world and being a part of its redemption. Participation in the healing of the world, not its destruction. So I want to finish off with asking you this question. What is your plan for healing the world and helping it to prosper as opposed to adding to its destruction? I would love for you guys to answer that question in the comment section down below. And I hope that you guys will stay tuned. Periodically, I like to throw in some beautiful devotional discussions. So stay tuned with me. If you want to watch any of my other playlists, they're right here. And we've got lots going on. We'll be adding lots of videos. But in the meantime, I'll see you for next season. And I hope you'll join me for my discussion with The Chosen devotional. I'm still working on the first devotional, and we have the second one to go through too. So much love to you. God bless you. And I hope to see you soon. Much love, always and forever. Thanks for watching my series, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.